Well, good day everyone. I thought I would continue on with this mountain study, sort of a tutorial on how I sometimes create mountains or paint mountains. And what I thought I would do today is I got the basic tones down that I'm going with here. Now I will eventually get to the sky. I might decide to put some clouds and light in the sky later in another video, and we'll do another video talking about the sky itself. So what I've got is a little fine detail brush here. It's a little round brush basically. It looks like it's a 3, my glasses aren't on, it's a 3-0, so it's relatively small. And then I have this little blender or mop brush, and what I'm going to do is, and this may be a little unique because I don't know if I've ever seen any other artists do it this way. I'm actually going to use the little tiny brush, this little brush, to actually roll some shadows and highlights on. So I'm just going to get some darker tones here. I've got a napkin in my left hand and my mop brush in my left hand. So I'm just going to get some darker tones, and I'm going to go with a little bit of burnt umber and a little black, and I'm just going to establish those darker regions in this painting. A little hint of blue because it's a shadow area. This blue tends to be really powerful, so I'm going to have to use a little less of that blue. So I'm going to make another little pile of just the brown. There is a little blue in there, and I don't know how I got a hair on there. That needs to come out of there. And I just want to establish the darker tones here. So I want to make it a little bit thin. I don't want too much on the brush, just enough to basically give the suggestion of darker areas. So what I'm going to do is, there's already darker areas here established, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to try to emphasize these darker areas, and I actually use my finger, not just the mop brush, to establish these darker regions. Now some people probably wonder, how come I don't just take a painter's knife like the one I showed you on the last video. I have this, one of my favorite painter's knife is this Bob Ross painter's knife, because it's a little bit not quite as wide, so you can get in there and do more detail. I could just go along it with a little pile of mixed color, but I like doing this method because I would say it's a little more detailed. You have a little more control over where things are going to be. So yeah, that's the reason I don't use the I'm actually just kind of rubbing it in. You get a little more control, and you actually can put little peaks and darker areas in here, and I just kind of like it. It's more like a wash is what I'm doing. I think what I would like to do is add a little bit of gray to this mix, and just that kind of changes it up a little bit. So a little gray, oh yeah, I like that. See, a little bit of gray changes the tone a little bit, and it kind of emphasizes that there might be maybe even a little bit of snow or something trapped in there, because there's a little blue in that. So like I said on the last video, is I try to tend to make the brighter colors or lighter values towards the center, and so I'm actually rolling. I've actually got it, maybe the paint is a little bit too thin, but I'm actually rolling the round brush down, and then I'll take my finger and just kind of blend it. You get a lot more interesting things when you kind of change it up like that. Now I might put a little yellow ochre also into the mix, a little bit of yellow ochre, and it just gives it another little another little change of tone. Oh, that's a little too bright there. Yellow ochre tends to make things look sunlit, so you don't want to overdo it. In fact, I think I need to add a little white to that and just leave what little bit of yellow ochre is on my brush. Yes. So I'm going to go over here because it seems to be a brighter value. Oh yeah, I like that. See? It's kind of like sunlight is hitting just that little spot right there. Yes, it does, definitely gives it kind of a sunlit feel. And I'm rolling, but I'm dragging as well. So it's a combination of. And now it's kind of looking like I'm establishing a little bit of sunlight. In fact, what I'll do is go into even a lighter value, just go into white and just leave whatever yellow ochre is on that brush. And just come in here and maybe just basically give just little highlights of white. Maybe this time well, that paint's still wet, so I kind of have to wait for that to dry. What I could do is do it where it's not quite as, yes, there we go, where it's not quite as wet. Because when you paint wet on wet, then it just basically blends with the paint that's already wet that's there, so you don't get the individual. Yes, I like this. So as you can see, I leave gaps. I don't just paint straight. I leave little spaces to kind of suggest there's shadowy areas. If you paint just straight, then what happens is, with a palette knife, it all kind of looks the same. You can go in and you can change it up and soften up, but when I do palette knife work, I also don't just pull it straight down and leave the same similar values and texture. What I do is I kind of wiggle the palette knife. I sometimes use this edge here that's a little bit less wide so that I have control and I can kind of wiggle it in there, especially when I get to doing the highlighting and I'm going to make it even brighter yet, So I like this little bit of brown that that was left there. Yeah, I like that. See? Now it looks like the sun is kind of hitting the edge here of this mountain. Yeah, in fact, I want to just touch it a little bit more. Yeah, see, and I kind of wiggle. I'm wiggling it. I'm not just leaving it. I'm not just pulling straight down. I'm going back and forth. And it kind of gives this nice feeling of sunlight hitting right there. And I left this little gap here, and I'm going to go back and probably add some more darker tones too. Yes, oh yeah, I like this. This is really good. Just those lighter, brighter tones. It just gives it a whole different feel there. Yeah. I want to change it up a little. Yes, see. So you never know. This is kind of exciting because when you paint this way, you just don't really 100% know what you're going to get. You're kind of it's like looking through one of those kaleidoscopes, and you look through it, and as you move it, it changes. And if you don't like something, you can just go back and reestablish something else. Yeah. So anyway, yes, I like this. Oh, yeah, I'm establishing kind of like there's a cliff there. So, and what I might do is after this, I'll go back with some blue tones in the shadow areas too, which will also. So I know this is a lot slower and fiddlier way of painting, but what I've found is when you do it this way, you get kind of you just get something random that wouldn't be something that you would get just by painting only using the spatula and just pulling it across. You get something more random, and it adds. I think it adds a realism to the piece. Now, see, this is the darker area, so what I'm going to do is just put straight burnt umber in here. And so it looks like there's still texture that contrasts the initial tone, but it doesn't look 100% like Oh, that's really dark. So if it's too dark, or you feel that you put too much paint down, or it's too thick or whatever, you can always go in and adjust that. And I'm just actually wiggling again. I'm wiggling the brush because I don't want there to be too much. In fact, whatever's left on this, I might establish that there's another shadowy area here. See, oh yes, I like that, because it kind of looks like there's little divots and so forth in the and now I'm just rolling again. And I don't know if you've seen artists do this, but it's just something I kind of decided to do, and I kind of like the effect that it gives. So I like this rolling action, and I just basically roll the brush down, and it kind of just adds another dimension to it. So as I said last time, I kind of made a mistake here because I started painting wet on wet, and the paint wasn't staying there, it was moving. So I just painted this other, I don't know what you would call it, this other group of hills or mountains that's above it. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to emphasize that that's another range, another mountain range. I need to add a little more black. So I can go in here and I'm going to establish a little more dark. When things are closer to you, because it's got some burnt umber and a little gray in there, but when things are closer to you, they're darker. They tend to be darker. And actually I need to put this on this side because this is going to be the shadow side, right? So I'll leave some of that nice white that's there. There's already some white, and I'm going to just draw this out with my finger. It's okay to finger paint, you know. You did it when you were a kid. Why not do it when you're an adult, you know? So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and keep rolling the dark paint out, and establishes another mountain range here. And I'll go here and just put a slight smudges of detail. I kind of like this little bit lighter tone here, so I don't want to make that too dark on the right hand side. I like to make most of my sharp areas and brighter areas towards the center of the canvas, because when you do, so now I just picked up some white and I'm just kind of establishing there's maybe some snow or something there. Yeah. It's coming along. In fact, I'm going to touch into this blue because I have a little blue here, and I want to establish that maybe there's some shadow here that's in blue. Although I did like that white highlight there, so I might go back and put that white back in there. So it's just really, it's a matter of just playing with values and colors and different tones. And right now what I'm doing is basically applying washes. It's kind of like what I'm doing is making a wash here. So this is kind of like a shadowy area, so I'm adding the blue, and of course blue makes things look distant, but it also makes things look like they're in the shadow. So I think what I want to make is a light blue. So I'm going to take some white and a little of that blue and make a baby blue, maybe the sky blue that I used. And I will make the appearance that maybe there is even a little bit of snow here coming down. So just using baby blue, you know. I'm going to break it up because it's too strong. But I like that where it changes up and it doesn't look always the same, you know. So this is basically just white, and I made it into a baby blue by adding a little baby blue, a little bit of blue to it. Oh, there's some areas where it looks even darker blue, and I like that because it implies there's a shadow areas. See, it's very random. I'm not painting like you know, just in broad strokes. You can see I'm wiggling the brush, I'm moving it around, I keep changing the tones and values, so it gives the impression that there's a lot of like boulders and rocks and divots and things in the snow. And as I come down, I always soften it. This is where you can use the blender brush just to basically soften the very bottom part of it, Because sometimes the bottom of the mountain will be kind of in a mist, sort of misty. So that changes it, and I like that. In fact, I'd like to add just a little of that feeling over here. So I might just go ahead and do that. Just add a little. It's too bright. I want more blue, so I'm going to go into my blue here. And what I'll do is add some clear gel medium, and the clear will make it more opaque, less. Yes. Oh, I like that. Yeah. Like there's some darker blue shadowy areas. Oop, a little too strong there. But it breaks it up and it looks less. Yes. Kind of like there's a little valley. It's got some maybe shadowy areas in it. I think I'll go just slightly over the darker area here. I think I'm going to go into a little black and kind of bring the shadows down a little. Yes. So that establishes the shadowy area. I'll do that here too. Oh yeah, I like that it's kind of dark, and then I'll roll it down. I'll kind of roll it down like that darker area just comes down further. And there's a little bit of blue tone in there too. Yeah. Should I come up here? Yeah, I'll do that. And establish there's kind of a crevice there. Go into a little bit of burnt umber. You know, burnt umber, the thing about burnt umber is it's kind of a warm brown. It's a dark chocolate, like a dark chocolate color, but it's a warmer tone of brown. Yeah, and I like the look of it. And then if I put a little bit of black here, which black is very powerful, it doesn't take much, and I dither it out, it gives the impression of shadow again. See? Just by putting a little black and then smudging it down. And of course break it up. Don't just put one solid streak of black, you know. Break it up a little and then roll it down. Yes, see? I like that. And I'm just kind of constantly adjusting, dithering, trying to establish there's some shadow areas. Yes. So this will start looking more and more detailed as I do it. I want to add a little more burnt umber in here because I liked that tone that it offered me. So I went into the sky a little bit. And that's the cool thing. Acrylic's dry. You can just wipe that out. There we go. Yeah. So we got our shadow. We're establishing our shadows really well here. Yes. I want to leave that little bit of blue though. There is some blue there. I'd like to leave it. I'm just kind of cleaning my brush off and creating more shadow here. And I'm going to push some of that dark up so it looks like it's part of that mountain there, that mountain range. I might add some snow and so forth in it, which, you know, is more pure white. But yeah, I do like the look of this, and I think I'm going to add some of that snow here, like there's snow in the back of this hill here, using that blue and white mix. Yes, that definitely does look good. It helped, I think. In fact, what I'm going to do is add some little bit darker tones. Up and into the sky again. Just rub it out. Rub it out. Yes. Now a little more black, and just kind of pull it, drag it down, drag it kind of straight down. It's okay to have a few dark spots here and there, you know, establishing that there's a real darker regions. and so forth. And when we go back to our highlighting, we'll add this nice, beautiful contrast to it, and it will give it even more. Now I'm going to use this blender and just kind of slightly blend that into the, so it's not too, the contrast is not too severe, but just, you can slightly see there's shadow there. So I just keep changing it out. There we go, there's some rocks at the bottom here, and I'm just wiggling my brush, and burnt umber and black, or just burnt umber, no, actually it's burnt umber and black. And I just wiggle, 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 blend, 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 and it looks like another little outcropping of rock, see? Which is very cool. That's the thing about nature, it's always random. There's not always the same things going on, you know. Things are changed up. So anyway, so I look like I have another little set of rocks going on here. And let's see what we got going on here. Oh, we're into 21 minutes so far. So as you can see, I got quite a bit of detail going on here. And as I continue doing this, it will become even more and more detailed. Now, because these are in the foreground, this mountain range or set of rocks, this mountain range, I'm going a little darker in tones, because when things are closer to you, they're darker usually. Yeah. And things further away, they're lighter because of atmosphere and different effects. So now I'll add some little bit of burnt umber in here, changes it up a little. So now I want to get to, after I do this, I'm kind of speeding this up a little bit now, because I don't want this to be a 3-part video on just the mountains if I can avoid it. I mean, I literally spend hours on a mountain if I really wanted to. And so I don't want to, you know, drag this video series or set of the mountains way out. And so I need a little bit lighter here. So I'm going to pull this down, because it looks like it needs to be broke up. See, when you add these different planes, it just gives it really more points of interest, you know. I need a little more snow here. Yeah, I like that. And it doesn't all look the same. That's what I'm trying to avoid, is everything looking the same. This is kind of neat. I like this. So far, so good. I'm going to add some more dark in here. Maybe like there's more shadow areas here. Maybe I'll just go up with some black. Let me grab a little more black. This is, by the way, I don't know if I think I've mentioned this more than once. This is my new Stay Wet palette. In fact, I want to have a little crack or crevice coming down here, like it's coming from the top of the mountain, and then just kind of, yeah, like there's a little crevice. Kind of breaks it up a little bit too. I think I like that, and establishes that there's things going on here, you know, like a cliff or something, you know. And I'm basically just going over the same darker regions that I kind of established before. Yeah. But I'm adding a little more shadow. The burnt umber alone wasn't dark enough. And of course, if I go into this snowy kind of feel, then yes, I like this. Yes, I like this. It just gives it another point of interest. So every time I do this, I change it up a little bit. Now, what I want to do is go into a little yellow, ochre, and white, and a little bit of gray. I have kind of a gray mix. I have two different things here. I have a larger Stay Wet palette, and then I made myself a smaller version that has just my shadow and highlight colors, which is very cool. I like that. Okay, so let's see. I'm gonna go over here, and this is kind of these are brighter values, so I want to kind of establish the sun is hitting here, kind of like, but I don't want it to be too bright in one spot, so I'm gonna break it up a little bit. Yeah, and some places I'm just gonna go straight and pull it down. Yes, see, yeah, I like this. Oh yeah. And now I'm just basically scraping. I kind of using the edge of the brush again like a roller, you know. I'm just rolling it. Yeah. Now I'm kind of getting closer to where I'm going to start highlighting. Now I need to make the mountains kind of simulate the same highlighting effect over here. I don't want it to all be just on one or two groups of mountains. It's got to be in different places. So this is kind of like a, I would say almost to the point where I'm going to start highlighting it now. Yeah. I think I want to pull that straight down. Oh yeah, I like that. It's kind of like you're doing it You're sort of simulating the way a spatula might look. It's kind of on the ferrule, is that what it's called in the brush? Yeah. And because you have this all these randomness to the thing, it gives it like a more realistic look, I think. Now I'm just going to basically clean my brush off, pull it down. Yeah, now I think I'm going to go into just almost straight highlight, and all I'm going to do is use white with a little bit of yellow, a little primary yellow or bright yellow. And now I'm just going to actually start doing the highlighting part. Yeah. And I don't want the highlight to be everywhere. You want it to be random again. Oh, look there. There's brighter white areas. Looks like there's snow there. In fact, I could pull that down. It would look like there's a ridge with just snow. I like that. And then kind of blend it up a little. So I'm staying away from this dark area because I want to leave a shadow side. So now I'm just going to pull straight down. Yes, see, this is all very, very cool. And I'll continue. I'll add some pure white here to the top, so it looks like there's maybe snow. Yeah, see, that pure white is emphasizing the fact there could be snow there. Yes, I like this. Yes. I am kind of going a little bit into the darker region, but that's okay. I can always pull it back. In fact, I'm going to put a little of that pure white on this little ridge, just to imply there's a little snow here. See? That's cool. So you have to think like a mountain, the way a mountain would look. Yeah. I don't know. I'm going to soften that. It's just a little too bright. It needs to come down a little bit. But it does look like there might be a ridge here. Oh, now I like that. That's kind of neat. Maybe I'll go to the side a little bit. No, I don't like that. So I'm going to pull that off, go back into some dark and reestablish this darker area. I liked it where it was dark. Yes. Yes. Yes, I like that. You can't have always light. It's got to be a mix of shadow and light. So I like just that I'm pulling it straight down and creating what looks like areas of shadow. Yes, that looks much better to me. It breaks it up a little bit. Looks more realistic, less man-made. So I think it's coming along nicely. Like I'm gonna pull something down here, like there's another outcropping here on the side of this mountain. So as I keep doing this, I'll just keep adding to it, and I want a little of that snow effect again, but maybe a little darker. So I'm going to go straight down. I'm going to roll straight down with what's on my brush. I just kind of leave what's on my brush there. See, now it looks like there's cliffs that are sort of in the shadow in the background. I like this effect. Yeah, looks good. I mean, it's coming along, slowly but surely, it's coming along. Yes. Establish the dark over here a little bit more. And just pull it out, drag it down. I don't want to not give the impression that there isn't a little bit too dark there. Yeah, it's coming along. So as you can see, it's continuing to come along. I'm into this for 31 minutes, so I will update you with photos and when I'm done with this. And next time I'd like to actually concentrate on skies. You got the basic idea of how I'm doing this. So I appreciate you watching. Please hit like and subscribe if you like what I'm doing here, and I'll post updates of this mountain as I'm done with it. Thank you. Bye-bye. Well, hello again. As you can see, I've been progressing along on this painting. Let me lift it up here and you can see what I've got thus far. Now what I've been doing I'm going to try to merge this video with the second video so it's just one longer video. What I've been doing is taking my painter's knife and I've been highlighting, because this is the highlighting stage. You can see it adds more detail and snow. Instead of just doing the base coat and then going across only with a palette knife, sometimes people will do that and they'll mix white with other colors, darker tones. It is kind of like a marble or mix. I like to do all of the detail work with brushes first, then I take my palette knife and I just start doing highlighting with it. I like that look better. I think it gives it more detail than just going straight down or straight across or whatever. So I actually sometimes just dab a little paint on. Now, these mountains are relatively close in this scene. If these mountains were further away, more in the distance, I probably would use more brush work and less palette knife work. And if I did use any palette knife work, I would be definitely softening it up with a mop brush or a blender brush. But anyway, I just like the way it looks. It gives it, I think, more detail, more realism. So, of course, these are snowy mountains. If these were mountains in a different place, not snow, some other kind of area, of course I wouldn't use the snow or the white as much. I would be using green. Later on I want to work on the sky, and I'll do that in a separate video showing how I create clouds and so forth, and kind of some natural lighting coming from the right. And maybe we'll do some trees and other things, or grasses or something like that. So we'll do this in later videos. But I just want to continue on with my highlighting using just the palette knife, and I use my mop brush. It's just a soft brush for blending. And I'm going to go into mostly white. It might have a little bit of yellow ochre or a little bit of yellow in it. I do blend it sometimes. I don't want just pure white. Like I said, that variety is what really makes the difference. And I'm going up here and I'm just pulling down. And I use my finger often to blend. I think that actually using your finger is actually fine, you know. If you don't, you could use the mop brush, but sometimes just using your fingers are just as effective. And I'm going just the areas I've already kind of established that were lighter areas, and I'm just adding that extra bit of highlight, or it looks like maybe snow, like snow-capped mountains. And see, that little bit of yellow ochre seems to add a little sense of sunlight, because that's what yellow ochre does. It kind of gives the impression that there's sunlight there. So and I wiggle. Sometimes when I do this stuff, I wiggle the brush a little bit. Okay, now I'm getting into my other hillside. So since this is all dry, I just take my napkin and I just kind of wipe it off to establish there's a separate range of a separate mountain range there. Remember, go in the, sorry I'm hitting the camera, tripod. Remember, go in the direction that you think the land is going or the terrain is going. Oh, okay, maybe that's a little too bright there. I don't know. Let's see. Let me blend that down. You can always take your napkin or paper towel and remove paint if you want to, if you think it's too bright, or I kind of liked that shadow area, so I'm gonna rub that and try to get that back. But I can always just use black and burnt umber and try to establish that that dark area again just by rolling it in. We're basically just establishing their shadow areas and cracks and crevices. And sorry, that's my studio manager, my cat. He gets a little upset when I'm not paying 100% attention to him. He can be a little selfish that way. So there we go. Now we re-establish those shadows again. Yeah, I saw a guy do an entire painting almost exclusively using a paper towel. It really shocked me. Didn't really use brushes too much at all, just a lot of paper towel work. And so paper towel is your friend in painting. You can use paper towels to do some really cool things. And to remove paint or to blend, you can use a paper towel or your finger, or a blender brush, depending on how light of a touch you want to get. So I think that I like that, where it's not 100% snow. There's a little bit of, let's see if I can get a little more going this direction, break it up a little bit. So it kind of looks a little more softened there. And I'm going to do a little more snow on this side. Oh, I like the fact there's a little bit of, there was just a little hint of burnt umber on there. Not burnt umber, but yellow ochre. So now I think I've pretty much got the rear of this done. If I put any, it's going to be a very little. In fact, put a little touch of blue and really thin this way down. I don't want too much And I'm going to mix a little blue and make it kind of just a little bit of a gray. Make it look just a little bit like there might be some things going on here. Actually, I liked it darker, so I'm going to go back in with my brush. Like I said, sometimes I just roll. I just take it. Whoop, got too much there. I just take it and I roll. Oh yeah, I like that little bit. Just a little bit. It's mostly in shadow. I'm going to soften it a little. I'm going to go in with my dark and reestablish those darker regions. And you see I just skip. I'm skipping. I'm not going 100% full on with the black. I'm kind of rolling and dragging and skipping. And yes, I like that. It breaks it up a little bit and makes it seem like there's shadow areas and things going on. It's basically just dragging a little black and burnt umber here and there, and it's breaking up the look of that mountain a little bit. Yeah, I'll go a little darker here. And go in with some white here and just kind of make it look like maybe there's another little range here of softer mountains, or softer, like a snow drifts and so forth, that are just a little bit dirty. It's not 100%. I'll go in with a little white and establish the tops. Again, rolling, dragging. I don't know if you've seen artists do it this way. This is just a method that I discovered, and I kind of liked it. And I'm just putting caps on there. I'm putting white on just the very, very tip of the brush, and I'm just rolling. And see how I'm leaving a little bit of brown, so it looks like there's a little bit of terrain there, a little dirt. And I'm bringing it down, but I skip. I don't go straight on. I sometimes skip it. And I drag it to give a... When you take a photograph of hills or mountains, you'll notice there'll be areas that look more detailed, and there'll be areas that are more soft. So you want also to simulate that look, where it looks like there's areas that are sharper and more in focus, and areas that are less in focus and more like it enveloped in mist, or because atmosphere has a lot to do with your look of your painting. So I think I've pretty much established. Now I'm just going to blend this out at the bottom, make it look like maybe it's going back into shadow. Now I'm not sure. I'm not sure if I'm going to do much more with this, because I like that it's darker. It gives a contrast. But if I do anything, I might try a little burnt sienna and white mix, just to give a little indication. And I marble it just at the very edge of my knife here, and I'm just going to see whether I even like that combination. And I just, you see, I just drag, and I don't 100%. I don't try to 100%. Let me see. I'm going to take most of it off because I liked the fact that it was a little darker. Yes, but it does add a little bit of texture and a little brown to it. Yes. So what's left on my knife, I like the fact that part of it is dark. Sorry if I'm hitting the tripod. Because this is in sunlight, I do need to add just a little more light on the right hand side. I would think it would make sense. But again, I want it to not be too bright because it's closer to us. So I'm going to actually put a little more black in there, and I'm going to reestablish the outline of the rock. Yes, see? Now, I did drag that time, and I like it because now I'm getting some shadowy areas. that are a little deeper. Very good. Yes, that looks more realistic. I need to do that to the top too. Establish a little snow. Maybe there's a little snow up there. That's the thing about the kaleidoscope theory, is that every time you do one of these, you just never 100% know what you're going to get. So I think I'm going to remove a little of that with my finger, soften it up at the top. So like you can sort of see the light is slightly hitting it and slightly detailing the top, but it's not 100%. And get some more darker tones here and get darker as I go down. And I like that little bit of yellow ochre that just showed up. I think that's awesome. I'm just basically using what's on my palette, what's left, just to kind of establish some detail. But I want to go a little more into dark, a little more into black, maybe a little more into the burnt umber again, and make this side slightly darker. This is the shadow side, right? So see how I'm pulling down and I'm skipping? I think it looks pretty good. I think what I'm going to do is add a little more dark to the right hand side here, just a little bit, and kind of establish that there's some shadows there as well. And bring this down. There. And I'll take the mop brush or blender brush and just kind of pull that dark down just slightly. I'm going to take my fine detail brush again, the little round brush I was using earlier, just to add a little extra dark to this side. Yes, see? It breaks it up and it makes it look more like it's a little closer to you, you know? And it defines the edge of the mountain, because this is the shadow side, so it makes sense that I kind of liked that little bit of brightness that was there. It's always a constant feeling of adjustment. You're just constantly going back and forth between light and shadow. And so I think we're pretty much done here as far as the foreground goes. The very right hand side coming off of the edge could use a little more detail. Yes, I like that. So because it's in shadow, it would use darker tones. And just wiggle the brush. You know, it helps to see, I'm getting more definition, which would make sense because this is closer. This range is closer. And I'll do the same on the left hand side with this range that I got. And eventually when I get to the sky, I'll start adding atmosphere. And I don't know, atmosphere gives things also a depth that's just awesome. You can do so many things just adding the sense that there's mist and atmosphere, which adds to the realism of the entire overall painting. So my cat is pacing around because he sees that I'm not paying attention to him. He's pretty one-sided that way. That's typical of the animals. They want you to pay attention to them, not what you're doing. He doesn't care whether I'm painting or not. He just wants me to pet him and give him love. Anyway, I think this is pretty much the conclusion of the mountain part, and I'll eventually do the sky like I said, and do clouds. I'll show how I paint clouds. And this will become, over time, this painting will become more and more detailed and realistic. And because this is wet, I got to be careful. So there's where I am so far. I might soften a little bit of this dark out. It seems a little too dark, but you know, when it dries, it might be fine. I can always adjust it later, but it seems to be turning out pretty good. And I like the fact that I'm thinking about putting just like snow drifts in here in between these two mountain ranges areas. So thank you for watching. You have a wonderful day. And if you like the videos, you like the way I'm doing it, my technique, please, here's a real close-up of it, please like and subscribe to the channel. I'd appreciate your support. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll continue on. We'll do the sky, detail in the sky, add some clouds and some lighting, maybe even some light rays or something coming down. And we'll start working on the midground and then the foreground to finish it up. Thank you for watching. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.